Hi, welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. Now this is our Q&A series for October, and this is where you ask the questions and we provide the answers. We'll take a look at the RTX 4090 launch. Was it actually a disappointment? What about Intel Arc? Was that a huge disaster, or is it something that you should consider buying? We've got Raptor Lake coming down the pike and Ryzen 7000. Do we expect CPU and GPU prices to absolutely crash? We'll take our look at GPU prices. Where do we expect them to go, both at the high end as well as the low end and mid-range, especially with so many used GPUs beginning to flood the market. Remember, if you get value out of the video, give it a like. It makes a huge difference to the channel, especially this guy right here. And of course, subscribe and click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. With that, let's jump into it. Before that, this video is sponsored by VIP SCD Key. Say goodbye to crazy expensive Windows 10 licenses and that terrible Activate Windows 10 watermark. Right now, use the links in the video description, head over to VIP SCD Key, and get a Windows 10 Home or Pro OEM license for a great price. Pick your product license, then use the PC Builder discount code PC25 for an additional 25% off. Go to the activation settings on your PC, put in the code, and boom, you have a fully licensed Windows 10 for a crazy low price, which can be upgraded for free to Windows 11. Use the links in the video description below. We've got tons of questions about what else, the GPU market, GPU pricing, but how can you talk about any of that without talking about what just happened this week? In fact, today, the RTX 4090 launch, and yeah, also Intel Arc launch. We'll talk a little bit about that. In fact, we were not able to get a partner card, so my wife literally just got back from Micro Center. This is what we do because we love you folks out there. We literally buy this stuff with our own money. So let's talk a little bit about the RTX 4090, because some people are saying, oh, it's amazing, and other people I have seen are saying, oh, it's disappointing. It didn't live up to Jensen's hype at the launch event. What do we think about the RTX 4090? Yes, amazing performance. Personally, I think amazing performance, huge generational uplift, in line with what we were expecting, which I think is huge. Yeah, some people said double, triple. Jensen said up to double, rasterization, up to 4 times ray tracing. Yeah, of course it was never gonna live up to that. This is why you should never trust first-party numbers. You should always trust reviews. That being said, NVIDIA's ridiculous claims aside about what the 4090 was gonna make you toast in the morning, when you got up and make you coffee, the 4090 is an amazing graphics card. Can RDNA 3 beat it? I think RDNA 3 probably can beat it in terms of rasterization, not gonna beat it in terms of ray tracing. Who is this card for? CPUs are being bottlenecked by this card at 1440p. This card is a 4K card. If you're somebody who wants the ultimate 4K gaming experience and you want an ultimate 4K gaming monitor and you're willing to spend upwards of $4,000 or $5,000 on your full setup for this thing, then yes, I think the 4090 is probably for you. And I don't even think you necessarily have to wait to see what AMD has if you're like dead set on getting NVIDIA. I don't think you have to wait. Just go ahead and buy it. Will the purchase make any sense? It's gonna be up to your budget. You're gonna have to decide whether or not buying a $1,600 graphics card makes sense. Obviously for us, this is what we do for a living. It does make sense. We're gonna use these cards in all of our video editing as well. It comes with 2 encoders on this 4090, which is really, really nice. Really gonna speed up our video encoding process. So that's what I think about the 4090. Amazing performance, very expensive, obviously. One thing I should add in, of course, about the RTX 4090 is, will it fit in your case? Because literally the manager at Micro Center was running up and down the line telling people you better make sure this will fit in your case. There's like up to 45 cases that they have in the store that won't even fit the 4090. So if you're gonna go out and get one of these things, make sure it fits in your case. We got a lot of great questions about ARC GPUs from Henry, from Joey, from Kirby Louise. Honestly, just asking what are my thoughts on it and how did the launch go? Let's talk a little bit about the ARC performance. There's not really much to talk about here. It does very well in the things it does very well in, and it does very poorly on the things that it absolutely can't even do because of driver and possibly hardware problems with it. There may be things about this card that cannot be fixed with drivers. So I would not necessarily recommend it for anybody unless you are a super troubleshooter and you want kind of a science project out there. If you're just a normal person who needs a graphics card and you don't have an extra $300 to spend to waste, go out and get an AMD GPU. That just makes so much more sense. I mean, you can go out and get RX 6600 XT, RX 6650 XT. We just put together a whole build list for $680 for 1440p, and that includes everything else, not just the graphics card. I wouldn't even bother with Intel at this point, possibly Battlemage when it comes out, but we'll have to see. That being said, right now, I think if you're a value shopper in that price bracket, you're looking at AMD. So then let's talk just a little bit about Intel Arc launch. It basically was a paper launch. When my wife asked for one of these at Micro Center, I tried to get one at Newegg and other places, couldn't find them. They were sold out instantaneously. When my wife asked at Micro Center, literally everybody in line laughed. And they honestly thought that maybe they had one or two there. They checked in the back. It took her forever because they were checking everywhere in the store. They didn't have any available. So that just tells you how much the Intel Arc launch was a paper launch. I don't think this bodes well for Intel Arc GPUs. I think this is looking really terrible for them. I really hope they're able to pull this up because we all know the graphics card market, it just needs more competition. But to see Intel bungle this launch so badly over in slow motion over and over again is quite painful, and this is not bringing the level of competition we need to the market. I really hope Intel can get its act together, because if not, then we're going to go back to AMD and NVIDIA. That being said, I'm excited for what AMD has on November 3rd. I'm excited to see what they launch. I think if you're a more price-conscious gamer and you want to get price to performance, I think you do want to wait for to see what RDNA 3 has in store on AMD's announcement on November 3rd. Let's get into the GPU pricing questions, because there's a ton of these. Of course, we'll go into much more depth in our overall GPU market update coming very soon. But let's jump in, and we got questions from Big Sauce, from Peter Sanchez, from Eddie Rizzo, Liam, and from Imran. Everyone wants to know what's going to happen, especially to the 3000 series card now that we got used GPUs flooding in, and the fact that RTX 4000 is so much more expensive than obviously RTX 3000 or anything that came before it. So much more expensive, except possibly the 4090, which came in only $100 if you accept that $1,500 was an okay price for the 3090. Yeah, in terms of the 3000 series cards, I don't know how quickly NVIDIA is really going to feel like they have to jettison those cards, given that they've got the 4000 series coming in. Those are going to generate a lot of revenue. Remember, they're driven by their stock price as much as anything else. I don't think most companies, period, think about the long term anymore. They're literally just paying attention to their quarterly stock price every time they have to get a quarterly earnings report. So if you think about it from that perspective, I don't know that NVIDIA actually has a lot of incentive to start cutting prices on kind of the mid-range or like the RTX 3080 new cards. So if you want those cards at a discount, you're going to be looking used, because yes, miners are absolutely flooding the market. Are miners mining something else? Are we in stages of grief? We go to the r/Ethereum, the Reddit Ethereum mining forum. Yes, there's actually somebody who puts out a weekly report now on where all the miners have gone. And I'll just give you a TLDR, because we are going to go through this in our GPU market update. Remember to stay subscribed for that. Long story short is, while most of that mining hash rate has begun to go away, at least 50 or 60% of it is no longer mining, they're not necessarily selling their cards either. A lot of people who actually buy these cards from miners and then kind of clean up, they buy entire rigs, they clean the cards up, and then they sell them on eBay, are saying that a lot of miners right now, they're living in an alternate reality. They think the cards are going to appreciate in value because that's what happened over the last 2 years during the mining boom. They don't understand the fundamentals. They may understand the technicals of how to get the best mining performance, but they don't understand the economics of the situation. And they think that the GPUs are like real estate that's going to appreciate in value, instead of like every other piece of electronics that's going to depreciate in value. So there's a huge segment of miners out there that just don't get it. Trust me, reality will set in at some point. They'll see the card prices go down and down and down. They'll realize they're going to miss the boat if they don't try and sell now. So we have seen a big drop in used GPU prices already. It's only just about a month since Ethereum went to proof of stake. AMD GPU prices continue to come down at that mid-tier. That's why we did that $680 build video recently, because my goodness, look how cheap things have gotten on the AMD side. On the NVIDIA side, things are not really budging much at all, except for like the 3050, which is finally coming down, because I just think they're not really, I think the word is out. If you want NVIDIA at the low end, you buy the 2060 because it's faster than the 3050. So I expect GPU prices to continue this downward trend, except at the ultra high end. So what we're seeing now is that there are going to be essentially two GPU markets. There's going to be the ultra high end market over here. That's the RTX 4000 series. We'll see where AMD wants to position itself. And then there's kind of the everybody else market. And that starts around the $500 or $600 mark and goes down, where you're primarily looking for AMD on the value side, or you're looking at used NVIDIA if you want to get NVIDIA. And that's just where the market's shaping up. So we've got a lot of great questions from folks like Shaf and T and others about how to buy a used GPU. Remember, if you're not interested in doing it, you don't have to buy a used GPU. There's plenty of good value AMD GPUs on the market right now, and there's even maybe one or two decent value NVIDIA ones, especially the RTX 3060 Ti. But if you do want to buy a used GPU, let me know down in the comments if you'd like us to do a whole video. We can go out and buy a couple of used GPUs, clean them up, show you how to, reflash the BIOS on them if they've got a mining BIOS or something on them, clean them up, get them ready, install the drivers and do the whole 9 yards. And then we can, of course, test them against the new model GPUs that we have, some sitting right behind me, and see if there's a performance difference. This has been done a lot by, Linus has done, everybody and their brother did one of these a couple of years ago during the last mining crash in 2019. I think Linus recently did one about 18 months ago. I don't expect the results to be any different, but if you want that video, let me know down in the comments. We're happy to go through and kind of reprove it again, that effectively it's really hard to hurt these cards as long as you run them at something that's sane. And most miners would undervolt their GPUs because it would reduce the overall power draw. They get most of the performance. Remember, power costs money to them. That was part of their overall financial concerns. So let me know if you want that down in the comments. We're happy to do it. So then we've got the Spiffy Duck, we've got Snack, Sabs, others asking, what do I expect from RDNA 3 pricing? Well, it really depends on if AMD reads the market correctly. If they read the market correctly, it's an oversupplied market. NVIDIA has made a bad step in overpricing their GPUs, and maybe they're forced to do so because they've produced these very, very expensive cards. Look at the coolers on these cards. These are not going to be cheap cards to produce, so NVIDIA is gonna have to price them much higher. That being said, AMD apparently, their bill of materials costs, or these are called BOM costs, BOM, are apparently a lot less. Now, I don't know these for sure. I'm just getting them from the same reports everybody else does. But if that is the fact, especially with AMD going to a multi-chip module, which as we've seen with Ryzen has allowed them to produce significantly cheaper and faster CPUs than Intel can with the more monolithic dies, then I do think that AMD has an opening here. If they could sell you 90% of a 4090, 90% of the performance of a 4090 in rasterization, let's say, for $800. For half the price, that just seems to make so much more sense. And I think that they could win a lot of market share, especially because they have invested so much into making their drivers rock solid over the last 18 months. If you look at some of the Adrenalin, that's their driver package, the Adrenalin advances over the last even 6 months, we've seen, especially in things like DirectX 11, some of the older engines, huge uplifts in performance on AMD graphics cards. They've reduced the CPU overhead, so I think their cards are going to be much better suited for 1440p. Again, that's a problem the 4090 has, is it has such CPU overhead that it's CPU binding even the 5800X3D, which is currently the fastest gaming CPU on the planet, at 1440p. And so you're only seeing these tiny little uplifts over like the 3090 Ti. Why is that? Well, it's because that it's just taking so many CPU resources to produce that. You go to 4K and all of a sudden then you see the full performance. That's why the 4090 is a 4K card. But if you're a 1440p gamer and you don't want to spend oodles of money, I think AMD has a huge opening right now. 1440p gaming is really taking off. I think in the next couple of years, we'll see it almost completely replace 1080p gaming. And if AMD makes a play for that market, then that will be smart. And they'll see these prices significantly lower. And I think more in line with the last generation that got announced before all the shortages. Got a great question from Rogue D3mon. I think this is on a lot of people's minds about upgrading. What if you have an older system with all this new stuff coming out? Got Ryzen 2000, if you got it maybe 8th gen Intel or something like that. Can you keep up? He also asked, are we gonna make a DDR5 memory video? Yes, we are. DDR5 memory is starting to come down. It's starting to make a lot more sense, even for like Intel systems where you could go DDR4 or DDR5. What do I think about people on older hardware who want to go ahead and go out and buy a new graphics card, or can they even keep up? If you're happy with your current performance, there's no reason to upgrade. And if you're not satisfied with your system performance, then upgrade. If you are, then leave it alone. You don't have to go buy something just because it's the latest and greatest. You could skip this generation and you could buy next generation in 2 years if that's where you're at. That being said, if you're on like a Ryzen 2600 and you want to go out and buy a 4090, well, think about that imbalance for a second, or even a 4080 12GB. That poor little 2600 is not going to keep up. So yes, you will need to upgrade the CPU as well. Now, if you're on AM4, you got a really good upgrade path. The Ryzen 5800X 3D makes so much sense. Even a Ryzen 5600 or 5600X at dirt cheap pricing. It was just on sale for Prime Day for $129 over at Newegg. So I would take advantage of those drop-in upgrades if you can, if you're going to go out and buy a big GPU. On the Intel side, listen, if you got a 9900K, I would just stick it out with that. You'll probably be okay. But because Intel's like 2 and done on their motherboard series, yeah, you might have to focus on getting an upgrade. That being said, if you are going to go out and spend a lot of money on a GPU, is it really that terrible to, invest another couple $100 in upgrading the overall platform at the same time, do a new build, sell your old build, get some of that money back and use it for the new one? That's how I might approach it. But remember, if you're happy with what you got right now, there's no reason to spend any money. We got a lot of great questions about the CPU market from Kome, from Salinity, Handheld Gamer Team, and others. We got Ryzen 7000, and at the same time, we've got 12th gen Intel, and we've got Ryzen 5000 and the 5800X 3D, which is what Handheld Gamer Team asked. So if you're looking to build a gaming focused system, I would just hold off until we see where Raptor Lake comes in. But that being said, we do expect it to be pretty good. Will it beat the 5800X 3D? Possibly. It's probably only going to beat it with DDR5 memory. Maybe we'll beat it with DDR4 memory. I doubt it. We all know DDR5 memory is still very expensive. Coming down, but still very, very expensive. It's come down from totally stupid to just kind of silly. And some of the kits now are approaching something that you almost might think about. Intel 13th Gen is going to have the same advantage that Ryzen 5800X 3D has, which is that it has access to DDR4 memory. So if they improve the DDR4 results at all with 13th Gen over 12th Gen, then it might make sense over the 5800X 3D. Unless, of course, you already have the AM4 platform, then dropping in the 5800X 3D just makes so much more sense. But if you're building a brand new system and you're looking in that realm where you want to buy like an RTX 4080 or one of the new RDNA 3 GPUs that are coming out, yeah, then I think 13th Gen is going to make a lot of sense versus Ryzen 7000. I'm not quite sure who Ryzen 7000 is for right now. 7950X makes tons of sense, obviously, if you're in a production environment. If you just want to build a great gaming system, 5800X 3D looks very attractive. If you want to build a lower end or kind of mid-range gaming system, the 5600 was just on sale at Newegg for $129. The i3 12100F is a beast of a CPU, or get the 12400. It's only if you're going to buy the absolute new GPUs that you really, I think, want to look at Ryzen 7000, 5800X 3D possibly, or at Alder Lake. Hopefully over time that pricing will change with competition in the market. We'll see AMD being forced to lower its prices drastically on CPUs, that we see drastic cuts in the cost of the motherboards. Once that happens, and I think things shake out around Black Friday, that's only a month away, I think we're going to see a very different market than we are today. So if I were anybody looking to build a new system, I would wait maybe at least a month. Let's do a quick lightning round through some general PC building questions. Bodenschwell asks, what's my stance on integrated Wi-Fi on a motherboard? Well, you can get Wi-Fi one of two ways, right? You can either get it on the motherboard, or you can go ahead and buy a USB adapter or a PCIe add-in card for Wi-Fi. Those are your two options. I think in the past, it probably made more sense to get the USB adapter if you just needed occasional Wi-Fi for some reason. Remember, some of those Wi-Fi dongles don't also have Bluetooth on it. But I think now with so many more Bluetooth devices to connect to your PC, you're talking headphones and other things, I think it does make a lot of sense to actually get Wi-Fi on the board, if for nothing else than the Bluetooth, than the better Bluetooth adapter on it. That being said, if you still want to purchase it separately, you can. It's only about a $20 price premium these days over the non-Wi-Fi board, so I would grab it for nothing else other than the Bluetooth. What's the minimum wattage PSU that should be purchased for a 5-year upgrade path, given that new CPUs and GPUs are coming? And he's saying upgrade path, not future-proof. Listen, John, I'd love to hear your answer on this. I honestly feel like it's kind of spinning my head. Now, if you didn't check out our best PSU buying guide, you should definitely do that. I think we do give a pretty good answer to that. And that's honestly, you should just buy. Now, err on the side of caution. We used to err on the side of not wasting quote unquote money on buying a super high wattage PSU, especially they used to be more expensive than they are now. The overall cost of PSUs, I don't know whether this is manufacturing or whatnot, has come down quite a bit. You want to make sure you size it in line with what you're getting. Obviously, if you're getting a Ryzen 5600 with an RTX 3060, that has one power usage. If you're getting an RTX 4090 and an i9 13900K, that's a totally different category. But in terms of the wattage, you still want to continue to size it for your existing system. I wouldn't freak out about these new graphics cards. It's only tending to be the ultra high end where they're really pushing so much power on these cards. The mid-range, they have backed off a little bit. Now that being said, we don't have mid-range cards for RTX 4000 or RDNA 3 yet. So I could turn out to be wrong. If it makes you feel better and if it's not that much more money, maybe err on the side of caution. Lario asks, do I game when I'm not working and what games? I am a lifelong gamer. We've gone through some of the games I used to play. Let's talk about what I'm playing right now. I absolutely loved Horizon Forbidden West. Great sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, not quite the level of Horizon Zero Dawn. That being said, it's one of my favorite games of all time. So it's still, if you haven't played Horizon Forbidden West, you absolutely should play it. Overwatch 2, been playing a lot lately. I'm kind of frustrated with Overwatch 2 in the same way I was frustrated with Overwatch 1. A lot of multiplayer bugs that are kind of early launch bugs. I'm sure they'll get this fixed. It's not like Blizzard is some small indie company. But the game that I have played forever, World of Warcraft, I am excited about the Dragonflight expansion coming up. I know our guildmates have not seen us for quite a while, and to all you guildmates out there who watched our videos, we absolutely love you. We are coming back. There's just been this crazy period right now. We haven't really been able to log on to Raid. I'll probably play World of Warcraft until they shut the servers off. I don't know. It's the game I really love, mostly for the people that you build relationships with. And then I'm excited to see what's coming, in the rest of the fall and early 2023. Remember, if you got value out of the video, give it a like. It makes a huge difference to the channel, especially this guy right here. And of course, subscribe and click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. Now, if you missed our best Ryzen 7000 motherboard video, check it out right here. We go through X670, B650, what's the difference, what's the pricing on the current models, which one should you get, and we'll catch you on the next one.